Subscribe our channel and press the bell icon for watching more video.
So how do you create a contract? Create a contract by going to logistics, material management, purchasing, and outline agreements. Like I said, there are two different tools that vendors use to negotiate with customers. One is a contract and next is a scheduling agreement. Now, as I said, contract is a primary tool. A scheduling agreement is used only in specific kind of industries. We'll go through the scheduling agreement a bit, but we're going to focus more on contracts in this chapter. So click on contracts and ME31K. Let's go and create it. So we want to create a contract with the vendor, 4001. And what kind of contract is it? The first kind of contract that we're going to create is a quantity contract. So we'll create a contract with the vendor 4001 for delivering 50,000 pounds or kilos of coffee at $9 per pound. Okay, so in order to do that, we have to select the right agreement type. This is where you select whether it's a quantity contract or a value contract. For now, we are doing a quantity contract, right? So we'll select quantity contract. So select quantity contract, and this is the date that the contract is effective from, and purchase group 001, click OK. The company code is US01. There is a piece of configuration that we have to do in order for the system not to ask this pop-up window. We'll get to that later. Click OK. And how long do we want this to be valid until? So this is 2016, right? Let's say we want this to be valid for 1 year, 2017. Okay, hit enter. Okay, now what are the materials that we want to commit to now? We have a requirement for coffee beans for a quantity of 50,000, right? And just ignore that message. And at a price of $9 per pound or $9 per kilo, right? Hit enter and you can click save. There you go. We have created a contract 46000065. Now, what do you do with a contract? Say we have created a contract, and this is a quantity contract whereby we have committed with the vendor that we will purchase 50,000 pounds per year of coffee. So we shook our hands, said goodbye, we came back to our plant, Chicago plant. Now from this point on, for the next 1 year, we committed to purchase 50,000 pounds of coffee, and we created that contract in the system, 500028 say. So going forward, anytime there is a requirement for coffee, I'll create a PO, right? I'll create a PO with vendor 4001 and I'll say coffee. And instead of just creating a PO like that, I will refer to this contract, which is like saying, hey, you know what? We have committed to 50,000 pounds of coffee at $9 per pound. And here is my first PO. And because there could be multiple contracts, I'm referring to this contract for the price. So that way the vendor knows what is the contract that this company is referring to. So it's an easy way to track prices and terms and volumes, right? We'll see the advantages of doing that. So we are referring to this contract, creating a purchase order, and automatically the price for this is not going to be $10, instead $9 per pound, because that is what we have negotiated here, right? If we create a standalone purchase order, the price is going to be $10 per pound. Remember, that's how we have created our info records. Now, when we refer this contract, the price is going to be $9 per pound. Let's see that in action. So we have created a contract, all good. So time has come for this week to purchase coffee. So how do you do that? Go create a purchase order, create, right? Like that. Now, if you don't refer a contract, the price for coffee is going to be, let's say we are procuring 100 pounds this week. What's the price for coffee? Well, I think we have deleted that info record. So the price for coffee is going to be $10 per pound. Right? That was the price that we have been procuring all along. But look at SAP. It says a scheduling agreement exists for this material, or I might have created some scheduling agreements. So it's saying scheduling agreement exists or contracts exist. So there are some outline agreements, it could be scheduling agreements or contracts that exist. And it's a warning, right? It's not an error, it's a warning. So it's saying, hey, you know what? You're trying to procure coffee at $10 per pound, which is good, but there are some agreements that exist which might offer you better prices. So better refer to it and see if they're really offering better prices or terms or not. Right? Okay. Now we know that contract exists. Now, how do we refer to that contract? There are a couple of ways to do it. A simple way is just scroll all the way to the right, and then you get a column called the outline agreement. Okay. So paste the contract number there, hit OK. You see the price has changed to 9. Right? It automatically changed to 9 because that's how we have negotiated that contract at $9 per pound as opposed to our regular price of $10 per pound. Okay, so this is one way you refer a contract. Now, from this point onwards, the next steps are really the same, nothing different. So you create this purchase order, and then you do a MyGo, and then you do a MyRow, and then that's done. And you keep referring to that contract until you exhaust the contract. Now, in this purchase order, we are trying to procure a quantity of 100, right? What is the total that we have negotiated in the contract? 50,000. So this is just 100 out of 50,000, right? Let's see the effect of this purchase order on the contract. Click save, right? So we created this PO for 100 pounds of coffee at $9 per pound, and we did the goods receipt, invoice receipt, let's say. Now, if you go look at this contract, the total quantity that we have negotiated would still remain 50,000, but the quantity consumed will be 100. So this is what we have promised the vendor will buy, and this is what we have consumed so far. So SAP automatically tracks how much we have consumed out and how much is remaining. And how do you see that? Go back to the contract. Now close this, go to outline agreement, contract, and change or display. Right? So this is our contract, and go to this line item, and we have released 100 out of the 50,000. So the keyword is called release. So how much has been released out of the total that we have negotiated? We have negotiated a value of 50,000, and we have released 100 quantity out of it. So over the course of the year, we'll release 100, 200, 300, 500, however many we require, right? And SAP is supposed to track how much we have released. Now, if you create another PO and release, say, 200, this number is going to go to 300, 100 plus 200. Now, and I said there is another way to release contracts into a purchase order, right? Another way is like so. Contract release order, right? Go to contract, follow on functions, contract release order. It's going to pull that contract here. And now you can do either of two things. You can just drag this contract and put on the shopping cart, or you could select that contract and click on adapt. So when you click on adopt, it's going to adapt the details from the contract into the PO. And we're going to say, this time we are releasing a quantity of 200. So this saves us from having to go all the way to the right, putting the contract number in there. So instead of doing that, you could go to the contract, click on release order, and SAP automatically creates this purchase order with reference to the contract. And the way to do that is by either selecting that contract and clicking on adopt, or just dragging that into the shopping cart. You can do it either way, right? So these are the different ways in which you can create release orders with reference to the contract. Now, earlier we have created a purchase order for 100. Now we have created a purchase order for 200. Save it, and if you go back to the contract in change or display mode, you should see that out of the 50,000, 300 should have been consumed. And it still says 100 here. Why is that? Well, this is not the cumulative release quantity. It's the release quantity that's typically released per PO. If you want to see the cumulative quantity, so you have to go click on this button. This is called the release documentation. So it gives you a list of all the POs that have been created with reference to this contract. So the first PO was released for 100, the next for 200, the next for 200. The total that has been released is 500, and the value of the total that has been released is 4,500. And it gives you this summation by plant and company code. So if somebody else is releasing purchase orders for the San Francisco plant, it gives you that breakup as well. So we have the target quantity and the total quantity that has been released here, including the value. This is a quantity contract. So in the next chapter, we'll talk about value contracts.